Hello, my beautiful friends. So I am recording this for the podcast, but also for YouTube. And I decided to go relatively makeup free today because why? Why not? Why not just be naturally beautiful today? Hopefully, I'm not scaring anyone, but really, truly, like we don't need to show up with the mask on, literal mask of makeup all the time to deliver our uniqueness to the world, to deliver the goods that we are meant to put out there. So here it is. I am so excited because this is something that I've been thinking about coaching through on so many different levels because I love the brain body connection. And I think that this is something that is just going to hit home for so many people because I think we are told this time and time and time again that time heals all wounds. Time is just going to heal you. Time is just going to restore your heart and bring you so much joy and fulfillment. Just time. And obviously, when I think about this, I think about losing someone that you love to death or just going through something painful like heartbreak, so a failure perhaps. Time heals all. Let's just bust through that myth right now. Time does not heal all. Time just passes. It is what you do with that time that is important. And often, when we are in negative emotional places, given the negative, heavy circumstance that we experience, like every single human, because no single human is ever going to escape the humanness that is life, that is the good and bad, the 50-50, right? The pain, the heartbreak, the failure, the lost, the embarrassment, the missteps, right? Or the joy, the beauty, the growth, the abundance, right? There's so much goodness too. No one's escaping that. So when we say time heals all, it's such a cop out. And I really want to bust through that today. So let's dive in. Again, time does not heal all. Time is what you do with it. So let's just say that you have currently gone through and or in the past have gone through some sort of heavy emotional place, okay? And maybe it's loss, as in death or just heartbreak. I guess we'll use those for the examples. In that heartbreak, in that pain, you are instantly going to feel real human emotions. You are, and we're flipped right now, but it's okay. You are going to feel real human emotions, which will be pain and grief and anger and anxiety and like all of discouragement, disappointment, all of the heavy emotions are going to show up in this painful experience. And you are going to feel them. And if you are someone who's not just going to buffer through and drink and do drugs or, just try to mask it or distract themselves, you are going to feel some level of that painful emotional feeling place. But time is not going to give you this container of feeling the emotions. You have to be the agent. You have to be the person that steps in one toe, one foot, one whole body in to feeling the real human emotions. We don't like feeling human emotions because when we feel negative human emotions, we feel broken, we feel raw, we feel ripped open. It's like that open wound, right? Unless you are feeling emotions, you are not putting that wound back together, like stitching it together. And I love that visualization, right? You're going to hit the low and then come back up and then feel the low again. Like actually feel it and then go back up again. Actually feel it, go back up again. Actually have to feel it until you ultimately get to that place of true healing. You have to feel these negative emotions more than just once. But here's the key: if you feel them for 90 seconds, it goes through your body and you're able to level up. Okay. So the idea is that, you know, often when we're in pain and heavy seasons and valleys of life, heartbreak, failure, loss, It's not just one 90-second interval, it's multiple 90-second intervals throughout the day, throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, sometimes throughout the year. And if we are not allowing ourselves to feel the emotions, we are going to find ourselves in patterns of what I call buffering. It's almost like that compulsory behavior of perhaps distracting, again, numbing, overthinking is a form of buffering. If we just overthink, we somehow feel like we have this false sense of control. Distracting, numbing, overthinking, all of these faux control behaviors that show up when we're seeking the faux dopamine, the faux relief, the instant temporary relief. Numbing, distracting does not get us any results. It doesn't get us any outcomes. It certainly is not going to heal us. And that certainly lends itself to the original premise and my original argument and hypothesis that time does not heal all. You have to do the work. So, what we want to do, especially when it comes to a really heavy negative emotional place, what happens is when you instantly are called to feel heavy emotions because something drastic happens, there's this big change, and you have to literally sh- shed that old skin for that new skin. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's when your head and your heart just don't align. Everything feels completely off. You're broken, you're shaken, you're like, who am I? It's like when you first have a child, you're like, literally 1 minute you're not a mom, the second moment you're giving birth and birthing out a child, and you're like, oh, I'm a mom, right? It takes time to bridge that gap. Yes, you have to engage in actions that are going to allow you to believe that I'm a mom, right? So you're going to care for this child. Like you're literally thrown into the fire, obviously. So you're going to engage in actions that then build that belief and then bridge that gap quickly, and or at least in a span of time that feels reasonable. But because when we're thrown into change that we have no control over, like obviously choosing to have a child is something different. When we're thrown into change that we have no control over, like heartbreak, like death, like loss, like failures, right? And again, maybe even in that there's a little bit of control, but it's literally calling us to feel negative emotions. And what happens is we are hit with these negative emotions so quickly, it becomes a nervous system place. And if this is your nervous system all jacked up, right? Even when you go to let time heal you, you are not going to be able to get to the higher quality thinking. You're just going to follow the same neural pathways. But when you're allowing yourself to feel feelings, even the crappy ones, just let them be there without judgment. Just let them be there. Cry, wrap yourself in a blanket burrito, feel the anxiety, go outside and like put yourself like in the grass and just lay there and let yourself just feel it, feel it. It's going to suck. It does feel like it sucks. But when you feel that, what ends up happening is you are literally calming your nervous system, which is going to allow you to engage in the true cognitive behavioral shifting, which therefore is going to allow you to anchor in higher quality beliefs and that true healing place. So, for example, when I lost my dad, suddenly, of course, I was hit with all these heavy emotions. I believe as women, we do allow ourselves to access heavy emotions. It's more normal to feel them. It's normal for us to cry. Whereas men, it's kind of like, oh, what's wrong with this guy? Like, suck it up. When we feel negative emotions and you allow yourself to feel them, what ends up happening is you are able to level up. You're not trapped in this somatic experience. You're not trapped in your amygdala, which is your heavy emotional brain. You get to access your logical brain, your prefrontal cortex, okay? But you're not going to be able to access that if your nervous system is still jacked up. And what I find so often with my clients, and this is why we have to do the body work, like, and again, I don't necessarily coach and teach on like breath work or anything like that, but the parasympathetic work, like breath work, like finding some stillness, like just like allowing yourself to feel, is so, so important because if our nervous system is jacked up, the work that I'm teaching as far as the cognitive behavioral shifting means nothing. So I feel like I do a little bit of everything in my coaching containers, truly. Like I'm just the jack of all trades in the coaching world. I should just, maybe that should be my new title. But truly, I'm doing my clients a disservice if I'm not taking them through the feeling the feels process, this emotional capacity work, because often there's something from our childhood that is still our teenage years, our young adult years, that is still trapped in our body. Because in our culture, y'all, think about it. We are told, like, after you lose someone you love, like, you only get 1 week bereavement time to feel the feels, and then you get back to life. After you have a baby, in our culture, 3 months. You get 3 months maternity leave. You're still like bleeding, basically. Get back to work. We are not encouraged to feel feelings, and we are not necessarily given the space to feel them. And of course, again, people don't love to sit with us in the discomfort of heavy emotions. They just want us to be chipper, our old chipper selves, or they want us to be the version of us that makes them feel comfortable. So sitting with other people in their heavy emotions is so uncomfortable and raw and vulnerable. We're not used to doing this. It takes that extra energy. It calls us to get uncomfortable. It calls us to put off seeking the temporary dopamine, everything that our brain doesn't want to do. So even sitting with someone else in heavy emotions feels so awkward and cringe. So what do? We tell people, oh, it's going to be okay. Time heals all. Get back to it. I even find people doing this with my children. They're like, just get over it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. No, it's not fine. Feel this. So I will say to my children, Mom, I feel embarrassed. Mom, I feel bored. Mom, I feel like I feel scared. Okay, feel it. I don't tell them to move through it faster and it's fine. I say, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. When you can give yourself that grace and space to feel human emotions, even if they're past human emotions, and this is where trauma narratives and going through that again can be really, really valuable because it allows you to bring up some of those heavy emotions. So, for example, like let's just say you go through something really traumatic as a child, like assault or abuse, or you just see a lot of that in your home and it's just like you're tiptoeing, like I was like always walking on eggshells. This tinge of low level panic, this tinge of anxiety, that's going to be the emotional place that you reside in, that you find yourself in, that subconsciously it just keeps creeping back up. It's that electrical wiring in your nervous system that is just kind of being there. So if you're not allowing yourself to feel anxiety, even if it's unrelated to your past, even if it's just something that's kind of creeping up in your current reality, that honestly maybe you're meant to feel, like before a test, a little tinge of anxiety is normal. But if you're literally like 3 weeks before a test, because that internal wiring of panic, low level panic and anxiety is just caught up in your body, the body keeps the score. If you're pushing it down like a beach ball, it's going to keep coming back up. It's going to fog your mind. It's going to fog your decision making. It's not going to allow you to truly heal. So I will tell you this one little story. I grew up in a home where there was domestic violence and alcoholism, and there were some really ugly nights. Police, just, you know, I can't even begin to get into it. Like I've done the work to feel through it, but I want to say like 6, 7 years ago, even when I watch movies where there's domestic violence, I'm so triggered like right away. Like my stomach sinks into my heart sinks into my stomach, and I have to allow myself to feel that. But a few years back, I saw this video, and it was like something that really hit close to home because it was like local people that got caught on camera, and this gentleman, whatever, there was some sort of rift between this man and woman, a romantic partnership, I would imagine, but the woman basically had tapped the guy with her car, and he got so angry that he came around, and again, I think she was purposely doing this, but aside from that, he came around, opened the door, and started beating on her. And it just made me think back to my past, and I fell to the ground and started screaming, crying, screaming. I had to go out in my kids' treehouse to feel through this. And it took me a good like 40 minutes of screaming and crying and having to feel through these negative emotions that had nothing to do with my present reality. In fact, like we had just finished dinner with my beautiful family. Like we were having a lovely evening. Like, but this was obviously a trigger, and I coach through all of that kind of stuff. We decide what triggers are, all of that. But there was this trigger, and if I just said like, "Oh, that was so awful," and just like let my push that emotional place down, it's going to keep coming back up. The fact that I allowed myself to feel that so intensely that day, and again, we don't want to feel it. It sucked. My eyes were puffy. I had to go to work the next day, I think, and my eyes were still puffy from having to feel that. Feeling that emotional place, it allowed me to heal even more of the stuff that I was carrying around. And there's still some of it that's maybe like lingering. But if we don't feel feelings, our nervous system can't feel calm. So even to this day, when I feel low level panic, like as if I'm tiptoeing around like I was in my childhood, I tell myself to feel it. That is the first thing I do. Sometimes I'll wake up with that little like low level panic and I say, Amanda, you need to feel this. And I just like breathe into it and I let it be in my body and without judgment, without making it bad, without like, oh, why am I feeling like this? Go away. Like, why did I wake up like this? Like making it so bad. This is what we want to do. We don't want to feel negative emotions. Letting myself feel that. And then what happens is you level back up and you get back into prefrontal cortex, which allows you to access if you're working with me, some of the anchor thoughts that we're grounding is in as it relates to circumstances, but it allows your nervous system to be calm because it's so powerful. Like your nervous system is like this library. It remembers everything, the smallest triggers and the smallest little traumas, and I call them like bee stings. It's like a welt that you keep remembering. It remembers. So if you are not feeling some of those emotions that your body's remembering, it's going to stay stored there. And it's going to keep you in that amygdala, that lower quality emotional brain that hijacks the true you. It hijacks the true healing, which therefore hijacks the true outcomes that you otherwise would get to see on the other side of doing this powerful work. Okay. So those unprocessed emotions just become like integrated lessons in our life. And what happens in that is we start to fall into the behavioral place of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is kind of like when you like lay down and play dead. So given some of our experiences and traumas and whatever like library of experiences our particular every individual's particular nervous system is hanging on to, what happens is if you're not feeling the emotions, whether it's a current heavy situation or even past that just is kind of creeping back up, what's happening is if you're not feeling it, you're going to start engaging. So you're going to kind of slightly feel these negative emotions, feeling places. And because you're trying to push them down and you judge them and you make them bad and you're like, these are nuances, these are burdens, I don't want to feel them, this sucks, it does suck. You don't want to feel that. Those negative emotions turn into your behavioral patterns. Freeze, fight or flight. So this is mine for sure. This is where I go to that faux controlling behavior or perfectionism or trying to control for things I really have no control over and I overthink or I'll sit in my head. That's that like buffering behavior. The freeze is where you just don't do anything. And this is one of my clients. She's like, I mean, I'm so unmotivated to, clean up and keep things like organized. And I'm like, well, we can do all the work, but if your nervous system is still feeling this low level, frightened, anxious place, like and your response given again that library was to freeze as a child like let me just hide and freeze and not do anything. If that's the behavior, what results are you going to get? Even if you try to get up and do the task, you're doing it from this burdensome emotional place. You're doing it from this graspy ick nervous system place. It's never going to stick. So this is why it's so important to feel emotions. So important to feel emotions. And time is not going to allow you to do that. Time doesn't say, "Hey, let's feel emotions." Time is just passing. So the longer you go without truly feeling emotions, the longer you extend the time gap to healing, The longer you continue to engage in your flight, flight, freeze behavior, the longer it takes for you to start seeing powerful, beautiful results in your life on the other side of healing. You just keep extending the time gap of who you get to be on the other side of that healing. So, again, that somatic work, that nervous system work is so huge, but the belief work is so key. When we can calm the nervous system, we can then start coaching through all of the circumstances and get to those higher quality beliefs that then become the neural wiring in your brain. It becomes that pathway that you just travel. So, in my example of losing my dad suddenly, feeling all those emotions, spending literally a year feeling those emotions. Thankfully, I had my daughter. I was postpartum too, on top of it. Gosh, what a mess that was. Feeling the emotions of becoming a new mom, feeling the emotions, letting myself feel it, letting myself cry, letting myself dump it out, letting myself just sit in it, letting myself just lay in it. I did have space to do that because I had like 3 months off in the summer after I had my daughter and after my dad had died. It was in June, so I was working out of school. I had that space, but allowing myself to feel it throughout the entire year. We don't want to feel negative emotions for a whole year. That is painful, y'all. You know what I'm talking about, right? We don't want to feel all of those negative emotions for a year, but on the other side of that year, I was able to get to this thought place. And again, this was the curiosity work, the coaching work that I teach on. I was doing it in my own mind. I got to this place that God took my dad to save my sister. And here's the deal. I will never know if that belief is true. You could have said that to me 500 times, hey, throughout that year, until I really was allowing myself to feel the negative emotions. You could have said to me 500 times till you were blue in the face that, Amanda, what do you mean? God took your dad to save your sister. Look, 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 look. Like, obviously, at that point, my sister hadn't done the healing work herself, but let's just say on the other side of that, even if someone was to say that to me, someone I loved, someone I trusted, even if they were to say that to me, if I had not allowed myself to feel the feelings, I would not believe that thought or belief. But now to this day, I firmly believe that. I can feel it in my body. There's so much peace. I hardly think about my dad anymore. I hardly have those triggered emotional responses. I am not in fight, fight, freeze all the time because of that painful experience. Of course, tinges, but when those tinges show up, I feel them. So my nervous system is always this baseline place. So I hope this just like, again, I'm doing this recording so you can see this visually as well. But that emotional place when you're doing this work, it leads to this like alchemy. It leads to this personal like evolution. Once you regulate, your body stops racing. It stops getting all jacked up. Your energy starts to expand and it allows you to literally level up in your mind. It allows you to get back up in prefrontal cortex in a way that truly serves you so that you can anchor in higher quality thoughts that then generate higher quality emotions of trust and peace and fulfillment, which then lend itself to a behavioral place that is not fight or flight freeze or buffer or just engage in the faux control. It's actually you showing up in that authentic place. It's you showing up like your true self. It's you showing up for other people. It's you showing up and being a giver. It's you showing up and holding firm on boundaries. Like all the fruitful actions that come from a place of feeling positive emotions because you've now given that to yourself, you get amazing results from that place. And what happens in that when you start getting results from the healing work, beyond feeling the feelings and then doing the cognitive behavioral shifting that I teach in my containers, what happens is you then start building more belief. So that belief of like God took my dad to save my sister, it's just being confirmed. It's just being confirmed in my inner world over and over again. So when your body no longer thinks that the past is happening, you can create a future that's actually new and beautiful and amazing. And this is what I want for all humans. No matter what trauma you've been through, no matter what pain you have been through, you do not have to buffer and numb and control for all the things that you can't control for, or buffer through, or find this compulsory place to try to get through that emotional negativity. You get to give this to yourself, but it first starts with feeling feelings. And this is the power of working with a coach, because time is just going to keep passing. And until you are the change agent, until you commit to you, time just passes. It doesn't heal all. So, thank you all for listening today. I'm honored to have you here, and I really, really appreciate you listening. I hope this really, truly served you and your heart and your soul and your spirit. And I hope you consider working with me, because I would love to give you all the goods. So, see y'all next time.